Okay, this is a review of the math part for your test. You're going to see a sheet that looks very much like this where you're going to have to calculate average product and marginal product. Average just means on average how many did each person make, and so once again you're going to take your output, and that's what this column is, output, and you're going to divide it by your inputs. And so when we have one worker making 4, 4 divided by 1 is 4. When we have 2 workers who make 9, we are making 4.5. When we have 3 workers making 15, 15 divided by 3, on average each one is making 5. We have 4 workers making 20, once again on average each one is making 5. When you have 5 workers making 24, on average each one is making 4.8. When you have 6 workers making 26, on average each one is making 4.3. And when you have 7 workers making 25, on average each one is making 3.6. So we're going to take the output divided by the input. 4 divided by 1, 9 divided by 2. When you do that, you are finished with this column. And once again, this is our average product column. On average, how much did each worker make? So you're finished with this column. Do not use this column to do marginal product, because what we're looking at is when we have one person making 4, and actually we're not even going to do this column, but we could do this column. But when we add an additional worker, because remember marginal means additional, when we add that second worker, worker was making 4. How many did that second worker add? And we can see that that's 5. And the calculation for doing this is the change in output. So we're going to look, the change is 5, and the change over input. So the change is 1. So 5 over 1 is 5, and I'm only going to change it by 1 each time. So when you had 2 workers making 9, you now have 3 workers making 15. So that third worker actually added 6. The difference between 9 and 15 is 6. So when we added the fourth worker, they added 5. When we added the 6th worker, 4 were making 20, 5 making 24, so that 5th worker only added 4. When we add the 6th worker, that 6th worker added 2. That's the difference between 24 and 26. And you notice when we added the 7th worker, we actually are going backwards. So that 7th worker actually took away -1. And so calculating, and we've done that, calculating books per worker, which is your average product. We calculated the marginal product. What does, and sorry, there's a loss in translation here when we went from one program to another. So what does books per worker column? That's your average product. How much does each worker add, or not how much does each worker, let's do that again. Average product on average, how much did each worker make? And we can see that when we look at 7 workers making 25 on average, each one made 3.6, but we can see that last one actually went backwards. So at what point did diminishing returns set in? Because remember, at first, labor's contribution is positive. We go from making nothing to 5, and then we increase. So we have increasing returns to scale. The moment we're still going up in terms of total product, but we're not going up as fast, that's the point where diminishing return sets in. So at 4 workers, diminishing returns is setting in. And at what point does negative return set in? The moment our productivity actually starts to go backwards, and that's at 7 workers. So which column, books per worker or marginal product, is more important? Hopefully you see that when we're trying to decide how many workers that we are going to add, we're going to actually need to look at the marginal product, because here we're going, that's great, people are still producing. But over here we see as we add additional workers, our productivity is starting to slow down to the point where we're actually going backwards. So marginal product is the more important column. And the other side of your test is going to look just like the Agenda A and the Agenda B from the handout that we did last week. So you're going to have to calculate your total cost, marginal cost, total revenue, profits, all of those columns. So we can see here that fixed costs plus variable costs are going to equal your total costs. So when we're making 0, we still have $3 worth of costs. When we make 1, we have $5 worth of costs. When we make 2, we have $8 worth of costs. When we make 3, we have 12, then 17, 23, 30, 38, and then 47. We are just going to add the first 2 columns, and this is going to be in the exact same order on your test. Marginal cost. When we made 0, it cost us 3. How much did it cost to make 1? If we were already spending 3 and now it's 5, the additional cost is just 2. And then we can see the additional cost of the second one, the difference between 8 and 5 is 3. It cost us an additional $4 to make the third one. It cost us an additional $5 to make the fourth one. And it cost us an additional $6 to make the fifth one, $7, then $8, then $9. We're looking at the difference here. How much did it cost just to make that additional one? Marginal revenue, don't forget, when we sold 1, it was 6. When we sell 1 more, an additional 1, we're going to make $6 more, and then 6, 6, 6, all the way down, because that's the cost, or excuse me, that's the price that we're charging. So when we sell an additional 1 and we're selling them for $6, we're going to make $6 each time for each one. Total revenue is price. We know we're selling them for 6, and here's our quantity. So when we're selling 0, our total revenue obviously is 0. When we sell 1 at $6, it's going to be 6. 2 at $6 is 12, then 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, and then 48. So it's price times your output or your quantity. And then our profit, this is how much we brought in, this is how much it cost us to make it. So once again, when we're making 0, we still have fixed costs of $3, and so we've got a -3. At this point, we're selling it for $6, and it cost us $5 to make it, so we're actually making a profit of $1. When we're selling them for 12 and it cost us 8, we've got a profit of 4, then a profit of 6, 7, 7, 6, 4, and 1. So then we have to ask ourselves, looking at the profit column and looking at our marginal cost and marginal revenue column, at what level of production are we going to produce? And we have a situation where we have profits being the highest at 2 different output levels, 4 and 5. So then we come back here and we can see the point where our marginal revenue equals our marginal cost. So we are going to actually produce at 5 units. So we're going to produce 5 units. Maximum profit and marginal revenue equals marginal cost. And then this is just an additional handout, gives you practice on doing these same things again. Marginal revenue comes down here. You're paying $60 for each one, so you've got a marginal revenue of $60 for every installation. It's an additional $60. Total revenue, this is the price, this is the quantity. So our total revenue is going to be 60. When we install 2, it's 120. When we install 3, it's 180. When we install 4, it's 240. And then when we install 5, it's 300. Our total profit at 0, obviously our total revenue is 0. We have costs of $30. Those are your fixed costs. So if you're not making any, you're still out money. You still have to pay that. When we sell 1 at 60, our total cost is 60, so at that point we're just breaking even. When we install 2 for revenues of 120, our total costs are 90 for a profit of 30. And at a quantity of 3, our total revenue is 180, our costs are 130, so a total revenue of 50, then our total profit of 50, and then a total profit of 20. So once again, we're going to go back and we're going to look at the point where our total profits are the highest, and we have a situation where they're exactly the same. So we're going to come back and find where is our marginal revenue and our marginal cost the same. At 4 units, our marginal costs are 60, our marginal revenue is 60, so at that point we are going to produce at 5 units, or we're going to install 5 units. And then what are the fixed costs? We know the fixed costs. When you produce 0, what is it that it's costing you? It's $30.